Welcome to Escaping Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week, leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory.
Hello.
Hi.
So, what an episode, eh?
I actually loved this episode. I was watching it, and I think I probably only watched this episode once. And there were twists, there were turns, there was angry Dean. Yeah, it was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was... Adam's dead. What?
I know, right? Yeah, let's get that cat out of the bag. I had completely forgotten that part of the episode.
Yeah.
When it was revealed, I went, wait, what?
Me too. Me too. I was like, excuse me, how does this happen then? Because
this is going to sound really awful. I don't feel as bad about what happened to Adam now that he's already dead.
Yeah, but he was brought back to life.
Yeah.
To only suffer then for to be tortured for 10 years.
Okay, fine. I mean, thousands of years. Time works differently in hell.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why it took some of the guilt. Maybe I'm thinking too much like an angel these days.
Maybe. So yeah, we're talking about Jump the Shark, season 4, episode 19, written by Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin, and directed by Phil Segresha. So also before we get into this episode, so I mean thinking that Jump the Shark was like a literary thing, so one definition of it is like showing the beginning of the end, or it's reached its peak and it's just gonna get worse from here. And oh boy, is that true.
I mean, I think it comes from the Happy Days episode, right, where the Fonz literally jumps a shark. Mm-hmm. Isn't it funny that they were trying to say this is when Supernatural peaked? I mean, it kind of did. It kind of did. I was thinking, should I say that? No, I should say that. It kind of did.
Because, so again, I was also thinking, so Kripke was thinking that season 5 would be the end, right?
Yeah.
Though he'd written up to season 5.
Mm-hmm.
So you're obviously crescendoing to that point. So a lot of the stuff that's the revelations that happen in this.
Yeah. It
makes sense as to why everything kind of unraveled after this, because all of the progress that they made in their character, like Dean realizing, at the end, realizing who he is in comparison to Sam.
Yeah.
Gets completely all undone because they had to, because there was nothing.
It's they
had to build up again.
We did all the character growth, and we don't know how to grow these characters anymore, so they're just gonna regress. Right. Yeah. I mean, again, I love this episode. I mean, just the revelations that come out of it, all the character work is really on point with how I feel Sam and Dean come across, and it ties into the fact that we all know John Winchester's a massive douche.
Yep.
and then there's Dean apologizing for him. There's Sam getting angry. There's a lot. I love it.
There is a lot.
Yeah.
I love Dean's initial reaction to Adam.
Yeah.
And then how he kind of picks up the dad older brother mantle again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For Adam. And Amy made a fair point before we started that Adam is the same age as actually we are, because we were both born in 1990.
Which he's just a baby in this, 18. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the tragedy of this episode. Adam never had this interaction with them.
That's very true. Yeah. He never got to meet them until Yeah.
Which,
oh God, yeah.
yeah. I know, right? This poor kid, the confusion.
Oh, yes. These ghouls are the reason why everything gets messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, really, it is all John Winchester's fault.
Yes. He was the righteous man that started it all.
He was the catalyst for the apocalypse. Just saying, like, yeah, a lot of things wouldn't have gone down if this hadn't happened, and then the hunt hadn't happened in 1990. Huh.
I wonder if this is also the beginning, or not, maybe not the beginning, but like more solidifying the fact that maybe hunting things that aren't actually hurting people is the right way to go.
Well, yeah, we kind of know that already, right? John doesn't see things in shades of grey, and ultimately it messed everything up. his fury towards monsters and not having any kind of compassion for them, I guess. I mean, you can't help being a ghoul.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it implies in this as well that ghouls are born and not made, right? So monsters and supernatural are victimized for literally being born as monsters. It's almost some kind of parallel between Sam and Dean being born into their terrible fates. Yeah.
I mean, we've pretty much gone through the entire episode. That's the end of it.
Yeah, nice short one.
But let's get into it and get into some of the details of this episode.
The nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty of this episode. So we start with a recap, and it's a lot of John and Sam's interactions and them arguing, and then the bits of them fighting different monsters, and then it's also got a bit of Sam and Ruby doing their blood thing, and then Cass warning Dean about Sam's chosen path, and that Dean saying that if I didn't know you, I'd want to hunt you.
That line still kicks me right in the lady parts.
So we're then in a hallway, and a woman is being chased by something. We don't know what. We briefly see a picture of her and the young man, which we all know is Adam, but you don't know that at that time. She gets into a bedroom and pulls a cabinet in front of her.
Yes.
In front of the door. And I was like, what am I ever going to do? Because I don't have a china cabinet like that anywhere in my house. How am I going to stop the zombies from coming in?
No, that's it. You need to buy that turn of the century chinaware cupboard. Otherwise you're meat, Annabelle.
I know. Oh dear, whatever am I gonna do? I don't have one of the, like you said, turn of the century chest of drawers or anything.
Nothing.
I have one large bookcase. And that is it.
They never mentioned that she dragged this wardrobe in front of the door.
Nope.
Nope.
And it's just not there later on.
Yeah. It's the locked room mystery that no one ever mentions.
That's very true. The pounding on the door stops, so she assumes that she's fine. So she sits on the bed, and they do the horror movie trope of showing her feet dangling off the side of the bed. And at this point, I was sat on my sofa, which I can bring my legs back and kind of dangle them a little bit. And I was like, nope. And I lifted my legs off.
No.
The camera gets closer and closer to her feet, and then she's inevitably dragged underneath the bed. And as she's trying to crawl her way, she grabs the bedside table and it falls over, and it's got a picture of John Winchester.
Such a weird picture.
It's a weird picture. It's weird that it's on her bedside table. it's just like, is she okay? Like, in the brain, is she a little stalkerish, maybe?
Did she
like,
she never got over John Winchester, love of her life, John Winchester? Like, what?
like, yeah, he came around, but like, not often. Like, I don't think it warrants you having his picture quite literally next to your bed.
I mean, she's definitely like, what's it, holding a torch for him.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she was his port in a storm. Like, maybe they were still seeing each other when he visited.
Maybe.
You know? And then he just disappears for 2 years. Man.
What an ass.
I know, right?
What an absolute ass.
There's so many implications in this episode. Like, I feel like John was probably, I mean, in constant communication with her and Adam. And can you imagine him just like sneaking off to have these conversations with her on the phone, away from Dean? It's like duplicitous.
What, Dean would have been 8 years old? No, 6 years old.
So later on, Adam says that John didn't come back into his life until he was 12.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that wasn't that long ago. And Dean and John definitely would have been hunting together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I'm saying. It's just rude.
It's just rude. So he was 18, so it would have been 6 years ago, which was 2 years just... So John got in contact with his long-lost son when his other son ran off.
Yeah. Was it the guilt? Was it the guilt, Annabelle? Driving one son away, thinking, oh, this time, the third child, I'll get it right. The first two, can write them off now. The third child. Mm-hmm. I mean, it goes without saying, we're not fans of John Winchester on this podcast.
No.
But I feel like this is... I don't know how you can watch this episode and be like, oh yeah, he was a great dad to Sam and Dean. Like, it doesn't... It's the lying. It's the like sneaking around. It's... And you know it would have been like the gaslighting, right? So like, you know, if he goes away and stays in Minnesota with them and like Dean's like, where did you go? He'd be like, why do you need to know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he also knows what an archetype of a dad should be.
He clearly knows how to do it. But maybe he can only do it in short bursts, and that's why it kind of worked out for Adam. Oh
my God.
Okay.
He wanted an escape from his hunter's life, and he had that opportunity, but he never gave that opportunity to his sons.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much.
It's actually very selfish.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Dean even says, like, I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves. This is going to be the episode, guys. Dean even says later on, like, me and you, Sam, we're in it. We don't have a choice now, but Adam does. So he knows that this was an escapist fantasy for John.
Yep.
I hate this. I love this episode because I hate this episode.
I love this episode because of the feelings that it can invoke.
Yeah. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Sometimes you just need to watch something to get angry. There is media that I watch just because it makes me kind of mad. And I feel like it's an important outlet. Because I'm not a very angry person. so you need to have some kind of outlet to that. Mm-hmm. Usually politics, debates. That's what I watch to get angry.
Oh gosh, I've heard some of the stuff that's been going on in the English one.
I guess it's that and Supernatural. Oh man.
But at least with Supernatural you get to look at some pretty faces that are not gonna like screw you over.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay. So we go to like a side of the lake and the Impala is there and Sam is on the hood of the car brushing his teeth. I love this little look into their lives. Mm-hmm. Because the reality of them living out of their car, like we haven't really seen it Yeah. And I think this is just a nice little window into that, because Dean's asleep, but he's asleep across the front seat rather than the back. So I guess it's implied that Sam was sleeping in the back until he got up. But he's like so wedged against the window. He looks so uncomfortable. He's wearing John's jacket.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh no, this is going to be one of those episodes.
It's one of the few times we see it buttoned up as well, because it's obviously cold. What's interesting is with this is he gets the phone call, which we're going to talk about in a second, and then it cuts scenes and we don't see that jacket again this whole episode.
Until the end.
Yeah. What that's saying about how Dean feels about John in this episode, I'll let you guys read into that.
Or we won't. You might say something. Or I might say something. Let me clarify. I might say something.
So, Sam and Dean talk. They're just going about their day. Dean's hungry. He tries to get a sandwich out the car, but it's like tuna and it's been in there the whole night, so he doesn't eat it because... Good choice.
Good idea.
You made a good choice in this one, Dean. One of the few good choices. And then a phone starts ringing and Dean digs around in the glove box. What is a glove box called in America?
Glove box.
It's still a glove box. I thought it was called something else. I don't know why. And he finds one of John's old flip phones, and Sam's like, isn't that Dad's phone? And it's a young guy who asks for John. And first of all, Dean says, like, well, he can't come to the phone. And then it's Adam, who's saying, I'm Adam Milligan. He knows me. Dean, tells him that John's dead. And then Adam says, oh, yeah, well, I'm his son. So Dean's face is, immediately...
It just drops.
Yeah.
I can see how that would, his stomach and everything just goes whoom.
Yeah. Exactly that. So they go to this place called Wyndham in Minnesota, and they park at a cafe. It's really funny because how many scenes did Jake Abel get to do just in a cafe? During Supernatural, I feel like we should cut together all of his scene time and then work out what percentage of that was in a cafe.
I'm gonna say 95% of the, I don't know, 45 minutes that he gets on screen.
They missed
probably
out,
less than.
So they get out of the car first of all, and they talk at the trunk. Because Dean's locking and loading, getting ready to meet this guy. Sam says that he's been checking him out and he seems legit. He was born on the 29th of September 1990. There's no father listed on his birth certificate. He's an Eagle Scout. I don't know why, that's really funny. And he also graduated from high school with honours, and he's currently on his way to being pre-med. So he's gone to college. Dean doesn't seem very interested because he just says that this is a trap as they walk in. When they're actually in the cafe or the diner, Dean's completely focused. He's quite rude to the waitress as they sit down.
Yeah.
And he does this whole setup, he moves one of the chairs over to their side. When the waitress brings him water, he switches it out with holy water from his flask and puts it down. Meanwhile, Sam's just got John's journal in front of him, flipping through it and saying, this checks out. He exists.
So it's funny that, so Sam's looking to John for answers.
Yes.
And Dean is looking at Bobby for answers, because this is all Bobby's doing, right? Setting up traps for what you assume is a trap.
Yeah, because he even the switching out the silverware as well that's a very Bobby move. The holy water thing. Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
There's another bit later on in this episode as well where he looks to, we'll talk about it. But I don't know why this stood out to me. For the first time, I kind of had a real good thing about John's journal, and I'm sure that when they've marketed John's journal, they've always given it out as a notebook, and it's definitely a file of facts.
Yeah.
I don't know why that hit me in this episode specifically.
That's true. That's actually really true. I didn't think and it makes more sense because with the file of facts you can add pages. Huh. That's pretty. So I don't know if everybody knows what a file of facts is in America. I don't know if they.
Oh, okay.
It's like a binder, basically. It's like a small version of a binder.
It's an A5 binder. I have
no
one.
sense.
Oh man. It's book size. It's a book size binder, and you can go to. It's a very 80s thing, I think, but they were still quite big in the UK for a while. Like, I have family members who used to use them, and buying one was also almost like a rite of passage that, like, you're organised enough to have one. I have one. I have a pink one. It's actually signed by Osric Chow. Oh. It says AP on it because it's like a study tool. But yeah, you can buy pages and different inserts to put in it. So you can get like a diary each year, or you can have like notebook pages, or like your address book in there, wherever you want. It's great. Everyone should buy a file of facts. I love it. If you're into like bullet journaling and stuff, like, it's actually perfect because then you can take out all your pages for the year and you can file them somewhere else, and then you still have the nice cover. Yeah. Anyway, just advert for file of facts.
So file of facts is like a make of binder, right?
Oh yeah, you can get like generic ones, and you can get ones in all different like patterns and stuff as well. I'm sure a supernatural one must exist out there, actually. I'll look later. So yeah, I don't know what. I was just like, yeah. I mean, it's a very John thing to have. Like, it is a very 80s item, so it makes sense. That was a weird tangent. I mean, Dean said some funny lines. One line I do like here is as he swaps over the holy water, he says,
"One sip of Jesus juice, this evil bitch is gonna be in a world of hurt."
I don't know why that's so funny to me. Referring to holy water as Jesus juice, okay. He's not happy because he's like, look, you're using Dad as bait. Like, that's the last mistake of whatever this is, like, short, pitiful life. Sam points out an entry in John's journal that says, like, in January of 1990, he went to Minnesota to check out a case about 9 months before Adam was born. And he's like, it's a coincidence. And Sam's like, well, if it is a coincidence, the next 2 pages of the journal are torn out. Again, if it's a file of facts, why has he left the torn page? You could literally take the pages out with no trace.
Yep.
Anyway.
Convenience.
So, Sam does say, like, Dad would be gone for weeks at a time and he wasn't exactly a monk. Like, sometimes you go into town, you kill a monster, save the girl, and sometimes the girl is grateful.
Well, now I'm thinking about Dad's sex. Stop talking.
Which is, I mean, it's funny because that's literally what they have done multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, they have done this. Yeah, definitely. They have got the girl at the end of this. I think they're both as bad as each other as well. Sam says,
maybe you slipped one past the goalie. Dude.
I've never heard that phrase in relation to impregnating someone. I hate it, first of all.
Yes. This is an Andrew Dabb line.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I didn't catch that when it came up. I kind of was like, what? Oh, gross.
No. So
even Dean's not having it because he's like, dude,
stop. Why are you talking about our dad having sex? Stop. Just like, stop. So the bell, like, has got one of those bells on the door and it goes off, and Adam Milligan walks in. Jake Abel looks so young.
He does. He looks like a baby.
He's just such a baby. They really did a good job of aging him down in this episode. Like, he does look like 19, and just compare as well. I think his stature compared to Sam and Dean as well. He just looks smaller than them. Like, he looks like a younger brother.
Yeah.
They also did quite a good job in casting because I feel like he looks like he has some Winchester genetics. There's something there. I can't quite explain it. And like the shape of his face, or like he's got blue eyes as well, I think, doesn't he? There's something there that's like Winchester genes. So Sam waves him over and, introduces them both. I mean, Adam's got like a backpack. Oh, his baby. And he asks how they knew how they knew John, and Sam says, we worked together. And then Adam says, how did he die? And Sam says, on the job, which he questions because he thinks John's a mechanic. Mm-hmm. And Dean just says, a car fell on him.
Which I'm pretty sure that actually happens.
I mean, they did get into that, like, truck accident. So it's kind of... I know that didn't kill John, but, like, it kind of did as well.
It was a catalyst.
Yeah. They could have just said car accident. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, a car fell. Anyway, whatever, Dean. So the waitress comes back over and she clearly knows Adam because she says, like, do you want the usual? And then, takes it.
I love these, like, watching Adam use stuff, like the traps, because, like, he goes for the water and they kind of both lean in to be like, oh, oh.
The tension of the scene.
Yeah.
But he successfully manages to drink the water. And then I don't think you ever kind of see him get brought food, but he does get it at some point and, like, pick up the utensils.
Mm-hmm.
As this tension is happening, Dean decides to get his gun out too as extra insurance and, like, has it pointed at him under the table. Mm-hmm. He only puts it away once he kind of, like, passed those tests. Like, during all this, they're having a chat as well, and Adam explains that he didn't know who else to call other than John, because now he's his only family because his mother's missing. Dean's immediately defensive because he doesn't really ask about, like, the case. He asks, like, well, if you're really John's kid, how come we've never heard of you? And Adam explains that, like, John and him didn't really know each other until a few years ago because his mum never talked about him. Like, he knew a few things. Basically, Adam's mum and John met in the ER because it's like post-hunt. He came in at the end of a hunting accident. And all Adam had known at that point was his name was John Winchester. And then when he was 12, his mum had one of his numbers, and eventually she decided to call him because, like, Adam was like, please.
God, when John heard he had a son, he raced to town. I mean, he dropped everything. He drove all night.
And I said out into the room as I watched this episode, but he didn't come when Dean was dying. And I could see that processing on Dean's face when Adam was saying that, like, oh yeah, he found out he had a son, he dropped everything, he came to see me, blah. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, just like that time he dropped everything when Dean was, like, dying in faith. Oh, what about that conversation in home? Mm-hmm. Man, I hate John Winchester.
Yep. They deserved better.
I mean, Dean even says, well, that's heartwarming.
I'm sorry, Dean. I'm so sorry.
Sorry to have a better dad, Dean. He talks about John a bit more as well, and he says that he taught him poker and pool. He even bought him his first beer when he was 15. So this sounds like John. Showed him how to drive, and he was like, my dad had this beautiful 67 Impala, and Dean's like, no, that's enough. You've driven my car. This is beyond the pale. And he says, you know what, you're lying. Mm-hmm. And Adam's like, how are you calling me a liar? And he's like, no, we're his sons. Me and Sam. And Adam's not really perturbed. He just says, like, I have brothers. He's so sweet. And Dean says, like, no, you don't have brothers. Look, man, I don't know if you're a hunter or what kind of game you're playing here. And Adam just says, I've never been hunting in my life. He doesn't know about anything supernatural at this point. I mean, again, we have to put the point, this isn't Adam, but...
Yes. But he has all the memories.
Exactly. So it's close enough to his... Probably is close enough to his personality and everything. Mm-hmm. Dean wants to leave. He's like, I've had enough of this. And gets up, and Adam says, I can prove it. Poor Dean. He's so angry about this. It's the lies.
It's the lies. It's my dad knew how to be a dad, but didn't want to be a dad to me.
He let this random kid drive my car.
that was probably the biggest thing, because it is Dean's car. Like we've already established this in the beginning. Like
the thing is, like, the driving of the car it seems to be a very important milestone in like the Winchester growing up thing, because you know that John taught Dean how to drive.
Yeah.
I headcanon that Dean taught Sam how to drive, though, while John was off and away somewhere. Not necessarily in the Impala, but...
in a car, yeah.
And then we see it later, because Dean also teaches Jack to drive, you know, his son. So I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. Like,
yeah, like, you can't initiate someone into the Winchesters if he's not a Winchester.
Exactly. Right. So they go to Adam's house, and he shows them a framed picture of him. Right, I have to say, all the pictures in this are so badly photoshopped.
Yeah. Yep.
It's pretty good. And there's one of John wearing a baseball cap, and Dean's just like looking at it like...
He took you to a baseball game?
And he like looks at Sam and like widens his eyes like, what? What is this? Where are we?
I mean, he's probably also thinking, if he still remembers, I don't know, but like the gin episode where John is part of a baseball league with his like work friends and what have you. Like, he knows that baseball is like was a huge part of John's life that he never shared with his sons.
That's so true. I forgot about that. Yeah. So funny, the idea of John playing baseball. I have no idea why. It's just so far removed from... I mean, this is probably the problem that Dean's having. It's so far removed from the John Winchester we know that it's hard to reconcile in your head that, oh yeah, maybe he used to play baseball and like... so
I guess we'll see that in the Winchesters.
Yeah. So Sam says, like, you know, look, you can see in his journal, September 29th was his Adam's birthday. In 2004, he had written Minnesota.
He took you to a freaking baseball game?
Like, he's still stuck on this.
Yeah.
And Adam just says, yeah, why? What Dad do with you on your birthday? And there's just no answer to that.
But so many answers come to mind. It's just like, he went hunting. He taught him how to do something. Like, it was never... Like, I don't think they wouldn't have celebrated their birthdays.
I think there's, like, some kind of novelization, or, like, John... They did publish, like, a version of John's journal. And I'm pretty sure in one of them, it talks about Dean turning 17 and he lets him go on his first solo hunt or something. And it's like... Birthdays are very different.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know, Sam gets them back on track.
Adam, you said you called Dad because your mom was missing?
Yeah.
How long has she been gone?
And so it turns out she's been gone for 3 days, and their neighbour had seen her last. Sam asked if he called the police, and Adam's like, well, you know, the hospital did because she didn't turn up for work, and then I drove down here because he'd probably been at college. And then but blames himself. He is a Winchester, really, because he's like, I should have been here. The brooding is actually genetic.
Yes.
So the police searched the house, didn't find anything. Again, didn't find the locked room mystery that apparently had occurred, but okay. And Adam said she wouldn't leave without telling anybody. It's like she dropped off the face of the earth, you know.
Well, so we know that at this point they are the ghouls, right? Like, they would have probably moved the dresser out of the way.
That's true. If they climbed out the vent.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, fine. So they go up to, so Kate is the name of Adam's mum. They go up to her room and, you know, they kind of look around, not really finding anything. They said there was no sign of a break-in, etc. You know, Adam says, do you think the cops missed anything? And Dean's like, they don't have my eyes. And Adam just says, you're a mechanic. Adam asks Dean, what else can you tell me about Dad? And Dean's like, well, you knew him. And Adam says, not as well as you. Like, the first time kind of conceding that he didn't spend as much time with John as Sam and Dean did.
Trust me, kid. You don't want to know.
Real proud of your dad there. He did a stand-up job, you know. Sam appears and Dean walks off with him, and they talk together without Adam. And Sam explains, like, no leads, but he did find a paper dated January 9th, 1990. It says missing bodies found. So it was the case that John was working on. And in the... I found this so funny, I don't know why. There's a picture, and then it zooms in on the picture, and there's this, like, John, and this, like, peeping out behind a tree, like, hi.
I don't know if he's, like, in the crowd.
It looks like he was hiding behind a tree. Let's just see.
Because it's like a whole bunch of police officers like pulling out bodies from this place.
Yeah.
And it looks, well, to me, I saw like a whole bunch of people. For a moment, it kind of looked like Dean was like right next to him because it's like a smaller person. Like,
yeah.
How awful would that have been? But no, they're probably with Bobby at this point.
I'd hope so. Yeah, I definitely hope so.
Or, like, well, they are probably actually in a motel somewhere.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. So yeah, it turns out in 1990 there were 17 grave robberies, and that's probably why John was there to check it out. Sam says like last month there were corpses going missing again, and 3 bodies had gone from the local cemetery. So Dean's like, well, you know, so whatever he was after, it's back. He didn't manage to kill it. And then whatever it is moving on from corpses to fresh meat. They're assuming that Kate has been eaten.
Yeah. I love the fact that, like, this is another unfinished John Winchester case.
Yep.
And it's another, like, kick in the face to who they thought of as John.
Yep.
Right? They now have, like, a brother out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like, I feel like this was the straw that, like, broke the camel's back for Dean of, like, why do I look up to this man so much? I mean, it probably was built back up with the, like, torture with Alistair and, like, all that stuff of being, like, told that John Winchester was made of a different stuff.
Yeah.
But then it came crashing back down with this, which it should.
He's just a dude. Like, stop looking up to him so much. He's just a guy.
You've actually met God now.
Yeah.
Like...
You don't need to idolise this man anymore. Like, he's just a guy. So Sam pulls out another piece of paper. There's a picture of a guy who's got like some quite distinctive glasses. His name is Joe Barton and he was a local bartender and he is also missing.
Hey, does your mom know Joe Barton?
I don't think so. Why?
As Adam sat on the bed, Dean notices underneath his feet some like scratches on the floor. Mm-hmm. So he gets Adam to help him pull the mattress up and they see that there's an air vent underneath the bed. Sam and Dean do like rock, paper, scissors. Without saying anything, they just look at the vent, look at each other, start doing rock, paper, scissors. Dean pulls scissors, Sam pulls rock, as usual. And Dean's like, oh, okay, fine, every time. In the air duct, it starts off with the camera inside the air duct, then we see Dean like pull himself through. First of all, why did they bother doing rock, paper, scissors? Because Sam never would have got in there.
That's very true. Also, I'm very disappointed. You could tell this was not a Bed Edlund episode because there was no Die Hard reference.
Right? Where was the Die Hard reference?
They had a perfect opportunity.
It was there, ready to be written. Dean could have said, as he's about to go into the event, about to get my John McClane on, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Or like, yippee-ki-yay, or...
Yeah.
Like, have a little laugh, do a little... Like, just something. Just something.
Where are the Die Hard references? Anyway, I would not be in this vent. Never in a million years would you get me in this vent. What if he got stuck?
The thing that got me, though, was that I thought this was a one-story house. So I thought he'd gone underneath the house, like into the crawl space. Yeah. So when you see, like, a lamp, I was like, oh, they were upstairs. Okay, they're now seeing, like, the living room or whatever. I was so confused at, like...
The thing is, like, to get out, he would have had to go out of that other vent, like, head first. It would have been really awkward, so I wish we had seen it. Mm-hmm. Sam maybe had to come and, like, catch him.
Well, he because I'm sure that the vent is, like, you can't, like, just push it open. I think it's probably screwed in. So you probably have to, like, yell up the vent or, like, bang on the grate and be like... Hey, unlock it or whatever.
Come get me out of this one. Sam takes ages. It's like, hi, Dean, how you doing in that? But on the other side of this T-junction, away from that vent, he sees just bits of person.
Yeah,
that's the only way to describe it. It's bits. It's bits of Kate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she is presumed dead at this point.
So we're then at the motel room that they're staying at, and Dean, because he's stressed, is cleaning his guns.
That's so close to an innuendo. Like, it's so close to one.
So close. Very, very close. There's a knock at the door and it's Adam. and he's like, well, who are you?
Mm-hmm. I just realised it says they're at the Kismet Hotel. Do you know what Kismet means? It's like a serendipitous like meeting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it means. I'm sure that's what Kismet means. Basically bringing people together who are supposed to be together.
Oh.
It's usually used in a romantic sense, but yeah.
Chuck is having a chuckle right now.
Yeah. I'm so clever.
Sam tries to calm him down, and Adam's like, no, he's not having it. Like, you know, my house is now a crime scene. My mother's probably dead, and you two just disappear when the cops show up. You know, who are you really?
Cops didn't know where to look for my mom, Dean, but you did. And I heard you talking earlier, something about grave robberies.
Before Adam comes into the room, Dean like covers the gun, but not very well. As Adam's talking, he notices the end of the barrel, and he's like, "You're not really mechanics, and I want to know what's going on." Dean just will not answer him, and Sam just says, "We're hunters," and Dean's like, "Sammy, like, shut the hell up."
Yeah.
Adam says, "What do you mean by hunters?" And Dean just shakes his head, and it kind of like fades to the parking lot and then fades back into the room.
Such a weird fade out. I've never seen that in Supernatural. Like, what's with the... It was so weird.
But it kind of made sense because it kind of indicated that time had passed. Like, I understood that time had passed rather than it being like a sharp cut.
That's true. And they can't do the Star Wars wipe, so okay, fine.
So some time has passed, and they've explained everything to Adam, saying, so basically every movie monster, every nightmare that I've ever had, that's all real. And Dean obviously makes a joke about this. He says Godzilla's just a movie, which maybe it's not. They're too afraid to fly, so they've never met Japanese like hunters.
Yeah, maybe Godzilla is real.
He's just not like 1,000 feet tall.
It's the baby one.
Yeah. I kind of hate and love Sam in this episode. Like he gets to be the big brother, right?
I'm not a Sam fan in this episode. No.
Yeah. And Adam accepts that that they are hunters and that their dad was a hunter. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to say? And Dean's like, well, it gives the well, we're liars, that we're crazy, that nobody just says okay. And I was like, well, you're my brothers. You're telling me the truth, right? And he's like, yeah. And then I should believe you.
This should have been the first clue that something was up, I guess. It's like someone stepping into the TARDIS and not making a bigger on the inside reference. You're like, oh, something's up with them.
Yeah. But he also distracts them because he's like, so who took my mum? Like the need, well, at least with Sam, like the need for them to be the hero kind of outplays their logic a lot of the time.
I feel like them not clocking that this is ghouls was really bad hunting on their parts, because even not remembering this episode, I'm like, okay, grave robbing, it's definitely a ghoul. And I'm no hunter. But they don't even like, it doesn't seem to cross their minds. They're like shapeshifters and demons.
Well, I guess this is the beginning of their like narrow focus.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Because eventually, like, all other manner of creatures sort of gets thrown out the window, and it's always a demon and it's always a shapeshifter. Like, they don't think about other possible things until it like actually is that thing, and they're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
there's other.
Oh yeah, ghouls exist, man.
Yeah. Is it a werewolf? Is it a vampire? Is it a demon? Is it a ghost? Like, that's kind of it.
That's true.
Towards the end.
Yeah, you're totally right. Actually, yeah, it's never anything different. Mm-hmm. No, and there are some cool monsters in Supernatural as well that never get brought back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Adam wants to help. They figure it's a multitude of things that it could be, and he's like, you know, this thing killed my mum. If you're hunting it, I want in. Sam is like, well, maybe this is a good idea. Let's play into revenge.
No, Sam, no.
I don't know what that voice was, but
like
it's okay. Yep. That's my Sam's being an idiot voice. Sam says, well, he lost his mother. Maybe we can understand what that feels like. But Sam, you don't have that same connection.
No.
You were 6 months old.
Yeah.
Like, you saw what it did to your family, but yet you completely ignore it. Like, you can't equate that they're trying to Jessica with Mary. It's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
And Dean says, why do you think Dad never told us about this kid? Why do you think he ripped out the pages? Dean answers for him, basically, says because he was protecting him.
Dad's dead, Dean.
It doesn't matter.
Do you think Dean is jumping on the protection train quicker than Sam because Sam has been used against Dean one too many times? So he's like, "This, I know where this is going if we try and like bring him into the fold."
I think Dean all too well sees Sam in Adam, right? He's a kid, he's trying to get his life together, started college, and I think Dean feels great guilt over bringing Sam back into the hunting lifestyle, and he's thinking, I'm not doing this to another kid. Like, I don't want to do this to another kid, because he is so not on board with him learning anything. Like, you know, he's saying like he tried to protect him for a reason. Like, maybe John could see what was going to happen, like what was going on with the like Sam and Dean and how their lives were going to go, and didn't want that for Adam. Like, at least Dean is learning. I think like Dean is learning from John's mistakes.
Yes.
Because he has made the same mistakes with Sam.
Because John wasn't around, so he had to be Dad.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean...
So he based his framework on what he had, which was not good.
Yeah, there's no blame for Dean there. He was working with what he had. You're completely right. You know, so... and he didn't know who else to turn to when John went missing, so he pulled Sam back in. Mm-hmm. But I really think him knowing now what that has brought about, like the apocalypse, and you know, Sam with his psychic powers, though he doesn't know where they're coming from yet, but he thinks Sam's on kind of like dark path. I mean, Dean has a self-hatred that we can only imagine, that he know everything's his fault. So if Sam goes to the dark side, that's totally his fault because he pulled him back in the first place. Like, it all comes back to that. And if he did the same to Adam, I don't think he could forgive himself. Or worse, if he got him killed. Yeah.
Which, if you equate that to like Jack, the fact that he can make him like all powerful now is maybe a little bit of like a relief, but not really.
Yeah, Jack's a complicated one.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing, right? Sam and Jack are fairly similar. They both have powers that they don't really fully understand, and they've both done terrible things with them. I do feel like some of that storyline is Dean very out of character and not being overly protective of him in a way that he is to Adam here. This whole interaction here is more how they should have dealt with the Dean and Jack storyline. You know, why is this kid getting pulled into this? We should be protecting him from the supernatural stuff, no matter where he's kind of come from, because we know what happens once you get mixed up in that stuff.
That's true.
Rather than punishing him for being who he is. Like, it's so out of character for Dean, and I'm sure we'll discuss it further when we get to those episodes.
We have literally a long time before.
But yeah, this should have been the Dean and Jack conversation. Definitely. Can you imagine Dean having this conversation with Cass about Jack? Right?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't like it.
He didn't want Adam to have our lives, okay? And we're gonna respect his wishes.
Well, you don't have to. That's not a reason that, like, you can just not do that because of your reasons. It doesn't have to be John's reasons.
That's true, yeah. Like, let your own morals guide you for once, Dean, because I actually think you're on the right track this time.
Exactly. Adam tries to intervene and says, you know, can I have a say in this? They both say no, which is great. And Dean heads for the door and is like, babysit the kid. He's going out to obviously work on the case. Dean has left. Sam sighs and Adam asks, is he always like that? Sam's response is just like, welcome to the family.
I mean, the truth is, yes, Dean is always like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's angry because he cares. It's not a good way of showing him, like, affection, but it's Dean's way.
Yes. Yeah. And then Sam just defies, Dean's orders, as the way is right now in season 4.
Yeah.
Dean said...
I know what Dean said. And I know what it's like to want revenge.
I mean, yeah, he's on the revenge path. He's on the way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Do you think he's so gung-ho? I picked this up in this episode in a little bit, but do you think he's so gung-ho about Lilith because he wasn't the one to be able to kill Azazel?
Yeah, do you know what? I never really thought of it like that until he did say the line that he says in this episode. And I'm like, oh yeah, your revenge was taken away from you by Dean. I think, yeah. So I think Lilith is almost the next thing. I mean, that it's also kind of, that's how revenge works, right? It's not satisfying. So there will always be something else to go after for Sam. Mm-hmm. There will be the next thing and the next thing. Like if it's not Azazel, it's Lilith. If it's not Lilith, it's Lucifer. Like if it's not Lucifer, it's God. Yeah, it's never ending, and I think Sam even says that himself at some point in this episode too.
Yeah, he definitely does. So Dean is at the cemetery where the 3 bodies have been taken, and the director of the cemetery is just explaining who this. So it's called a tomb, but I thought it was a mausoleum more than a tomb.
Yeah, I did too. I don't think we really refer to modern mausoleums as tombs. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to call it a mausoleum because a tomb sounds too depressing.
Yeah.
Because it's got multiple generations in this mausoleum. And Dean says they don't build them like they used to anymore. And the director says,
tell me, Agent Nugent, have you thought about where you might like to spend eternity?
and that could be taken in many ways.
This line, it sent me. I love it so much. So I'm like, yeah, he definitely.
And Dean just says,
all the damn time.
Do you think that Dean thinks that when he dies he's going back to hell?
yeah.
Because of all the bad things he did in hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine having that hanging over your head.
Like, you cannot die. Like, you must be like, he probably wants to give up, but he is not allowed to because he will end up where he was.
Exactly. Which makes his, like, slightly suicidal tendencies worse in these series, because if he thinks he's going back to hell if he dies, is he just at the point like, well, I'm going back there anyway, might as well happen.
Mm-hmm. Might as well go out swinging.
Yeah. Might as well save as many people as I can before I go back to torturing souls in hell.
Yeah. Now that Alistair's gone, who would take over that spot? Like, in hell currently. Is this where Crowley's starting to, like, climb up the ranks?
Shimmy on up. Ooh, there's a spot. Just like worm his way into it. I mean, the thing is, if Dean went back to hell with Alistair gone and that power vacuum, surely the person to step into it would be Dean as his apprentice.
You would think so, but I'm also like, would he though? Because the only reason why he did it in the first place was to get off the rack, and it was because Alistair was just horrendous with being on the rack.
Is it? I don't know. Like, I feel like they would. Yeah, I don't know.
Do the demons there being like, hey, you can't skip the line just because you were a favourite?
I think it's more like he wouldn't trust himself not to be that person once back in that environment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what did Alistair say? Like, you left a piece of yourself in hell.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, I liked some cheery thoughts in this episode.
Also, Dean doesn't know that heaven actually exists. Like, he knows that angels exist.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, for him, he has to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
So, until an angel says, oh, well, heaven is actually real, then his fate is I'm always going to go to hell.
He just needs Cass to come and be like, Dean, look, if you die at this point, like, it's all right. Like, I'll just take you upstairs. Like, it's fine.
Though apparently that changes because, you know, once a soul goes to hell, it can't go to heaven. I'm not going to let that go.
No, don't let it go. Don't let them off the hook. Don't let those writers off the hook. They wrote that. They should have to stand by it or at least explain it. Mm-hmm. I will say, Dean looks very good in this scene. I like this look, this FBI look with the like black trench coat. Yes, more, please.
And the like boots that he has too.
Yeah.
It was a good look.
It was a good look.
Good look.
Yeah.
Which means he probably like changed in the car, right? Because he leaves in one outfit and then arrives at the mausoleum in another.
That should have been in Baby. Oh, we have to do a case. No, let's watch us like awkwardly get changed in the back of this car into our FBI suits.
Because like the entire thing, because he's got the trousers and everything, so he would have got completely down to his pants.
Yep.
Underpants.
Change his shoes, everything. Yep.
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 Dean notices just something on the side of a coffin, and he puts his finger in it. And he's like, "Well, this isn't blood, and it's embalming fluid." I honestly thought he was going to lick it.
I thought he was going to lick it. Yeah, I thought he was going to lick it too. Yeah.
Oh. But then again, it is like a dead body, so hopefully he wouldn't. And so the director says it's embalming fluid. Whoever committed these crimes didn't just take the corpses; they opened them up. Yeah, gross.
Ghouls are gross. Just saying.
Yeah.
And they can't help it, but they're gross.
They're making up space, though, aren't they? Like,
that's true. They're like the earthworms of monsters. Yeah. They serve a vital purpose in the ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure what happens though is that stupid humans probably put an empty coffin where that person used to be.
Yeah.
So the space is still taken up.
Exactly. Come on, it's at premium, people.
So Dean is at a bar and he's sort of unfolded this paper with the picture of Joe on it. And the bartender comes up and says, "First beer's free on the house for cops, feds too." Mm-hmm. He's obviously playing up the Fed angle because there's no way he doesn't know he looks like a Fed.
He's got that world weary look that they put into all cop shows, right? Where he's like, a day on the beat.
She says, you've got a Law and Order vibe. Yep. So they can do a Law and Order reference, but they can't do a Die Hard reference.
Right?
He's watched that movie. I bet Sam and Dean have a furious debate whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not.
Yeah. Is it a Christmas movie or is it a Valentine's Day movie? I know some people who watch it on Valentine's Day.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's set at Christmas time.
I know.
So it's a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie. I agree with you. It's a Christmas movie. There'll be no argument from me.
Dean will argue that it is a Christmas movie, and Sam would be like, "No, it's just an action movie. Get over it."
Yeah, and he'd be like, "And it's a dumb action movie too."
Yeah,
he'd be like,
So Dean shows the picture of Joe, and he says, "I assume you know who this is," and she's like, "Maybe a little bit. I'm his wife."
Yeah,
and she's called Lisa, and he asks, "What do you know about the disappearance?" And she says, "Same thing that I told the sheriff. He stayed late Friday to do inventory and never came home. And the police don't know anything. And she was afraid that, they weren't going to do anything until he showed up." Dean looks over the, liquor bottles and sees, a picture of Joe in, what looks like a Mounties outfit, but I think is sheriff.
Yeah.
He was a deputy in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that she says a long time ago. It's like 90s was not. I mean, now it's longer, but
it wasn't long ago then. Yeah.
And Joe was the one that worked on the grave robbing case. Dean inquires how it got solved, and she's like, "Well, most of the time he said it was good, solid police work, but after a few beers, he admits that he had a little help from a specialist, and that's all he would say."
Yeah.
Dean asked, "Did the cops ever find the person who stole the bodies?"
But after a few beers, he'd admit he had a little help.
From who?
A specialist. That's all he'd say.
He worked with John and they killed the ghoul, so it's fine.
They took that ghoul's head clean off.
Clean off.
Back in the motel room, and Adam asks how John really died, and Sam just says demon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, John really did. He did not have a hunter's death.
No, well, no. Well...
He traded his soul. Like, that's... He did not go out fighting. He gave up.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, he didn't really go down swinging, you're right. He wouldn't get into Valhalla with that one.
No, exactly.
Wanted it down. Got revenge.
Dean killed it.
So this is both the line that we both were thinking, that Sam's not satisfied with that revenge because he didn't get to have it.
Yeah, it's... The way he says it, it's almost like there's some resentment towards Dean for killing Azazel and not him. I don't know. I felt that from Sam.
Yeah.
I guess because he gets such satisfaction now from killing demons because he's using his powers and he feels powerful and it's a big high for him, right? Mm-hmm. And I bet he thinks it over in his head like, oh man, I wish I could have used Azazel's powers against him. Like that would have been such good justice. I think Sam would take Azazel out himself.
Do you think it would have been a Ruby knife against Tammy situation?
I don't know. Would Azazel's powers have worked against him? Probably not. I think they always needed the cult. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he would have liked to have tried.
He would have liked to have tried, yeah. Especially after what he did to Alistair as well.
Yeah, because he was fully like, he was proud of himself for what he did to Alistair.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
He tortured him and killed him. I mean, the torture was short, but...
Do you think killing Alistair is almost like, in a weird, twisted way, a little bit of payback for Dean killing Azazel? Because Dean kind of needed to kill Alistair. Like, that would have been a very, like, cathartic moment to finally get rid of him. I mean, I don't think it would have been good for his psyche.
Yeah, I think, again, because the brothers don't talk anymore, well, never did, like, I don't think Dean would ever admit to that feeling, but he definitely holds resentment for it. On top of, like, the fact that Sam used his powers to do it.
Yeah. They literally killed each other's demons.
Oh, God. Yes, they did.
And it actually made things worse.
You're supposed to live with your demons, not kill them.
Yeah, you need to accept the demons. They are, you know.
And then Adam says, so it's over for you. And Sam says, it's never over.
Yeah, this is what I mean about going on to the next big bad, right? You kill one, and where's the next one? Sam's right. It's never over. Mm-hmm. Never, ever over.
Until you get to the top.
Yeah.
Which makes the last episode make no sense. Because they got the thing at the top.
Yeah. It makes me think of anime, right?
Yeah.
So there's a really good example of... it does something that Supernatural kind of does. You remember Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann?
Yes.
Right. So they start off killing robots that are like normal sized. Mm-hmm. By the end of that series, they're killing robots that are the size of galaxies.
Yes, I do remember this.
And then they kill the big robot. And then what happens to the main guy? Well, he just becomes a hermit and lives like sad times for the rest of his life. I'm just giving away the plot of Tengen Toppa, but like they kind of do the same thing.
The thing is, it kind of made sense for his character though, because he wanted to get out of his situation. He got out of it, but along the way, like all his friends got killed. So he was like, "Oh, I've done the thing. I'm not doing the thing anymore."
But that's what I mean. To equate it with anime, like he killed the big bad. Like Simon killed the big bad. Mm-hmm. And then was like, okay, now I'm going to go live the rest of my life. All my friends are dead, but I'm going to do the best I can, right? He does become a hermit. It is kind of sad, but like, there is no one left. it kind of should have been the same in Supernatural, right? It's like, I killed the big bad. Okay, gonna go live my life now. Mourn my dead friends. The thing is, in Supernatural, not all their friends were dead. Go live your life with your remaining family. Like,
There was Bobby was still there.
yeah, alternate Bobby.
Sam had Eileen.
Yeah, alternate Charlie.
Yeah,
Jack.
I mean, Jack said he was gonna be around, but not really.
Yeah, but he could have been. You know, just pop in every now and then.
They had one more mission.
The fight actually wasn't done. Can't leave things unfinished like that.
Yeah. Anyway.
And
I guess Sam is right. It's never over.
it's never over or we wouldn't be here.
And then the lights go out. And something's starting to rattle in the vents of the motel room. Sam goes into the bathroom with his shotgun. His face while he's doing this, it was so funny.
It's blooper reel, like, material. Yeah.
It really is. I wonder if they could actually get, like, a serious take.
I bet that's on the blooper reel. Like, I can't remember the season 4 one, but I bet that shot is there.
I would imagine so. Sam says it's in the vents, and he shoots up at the vents. Nobody else in the motel does anything.
No. It's that kind of motel, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. And Sam says, let's go. They run towards Adam's car, which is like a big old pickup truck.
Yep.
Sam asks for the keys. He throws them over. Adam heads to the passenger side while Sam goes to the driver's side. And as he's trying to get the key into the door, because it's that old of a car, like you can't just do the remote lock. Something pulls at Sam's feet and like starts to drag him under. Adam comes around and starts to try and pull him out. Dean comes along and saves the day.
It does, it like pulls up like, my brother's in trouble. We're like,
Sixth sense. Like, I need to get back there. I'm right there.
His Sammy sense is tingling.
Because the Impala is still running. Like, he just put it into park and just like got out. He grabs the other arm of Sam and they manage to get him free. Dean like leans up against the side of the car and shoots the shotgun like underneath the car. I really like how they did this because it's like above and you saw the muzzle flash from like both sides of the car.
It was really good. I loved this shot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they all kind of like flop to the ground.
That was an intense situation, guys. So they managed to get Adam's truck out of the space where it was to kind of figure out what Sam had been pulled under by. And it turned out that he'd parked right over a sewer grate, which is kind of still open. Dean checks it and there's blood on it, which means that he managed to get whatever it was with his shotgun. Adam was like, should we go after it? And he's like, no. They say like he's long gone in that maze. Sam's annoyed because it is a trap, you know, and he will kind of walk straight into it.
Doesn't matter, you're right, there's a pattern. Joe Barton was a cop. I'm pretty sure he helped out Dad, so we've got him, Dad's girl, and his son.
It's all the people that John knew. So and Adam says it wants revenge, and they both look at him like, yep.
Yeah. I never understood how this could have worked. Like, even knowing there's two of them.
Yeah.
How did he get the vents to, like, make the noise?
I don't know. I thought this too, like, they must have worked as a team to pull this off, but... Yeah, it was the other goal the whole time in both places, so... I guess they just move real quick.
I guess so.
I don't know. They go back to Adam's house, and Dean's like, get everything, we're going. He wants to leave town. Sam says we shouldn't leave, and I like where he puts his foot up because he's been hurt. I don't know why. I thought he was going to say, like, I've been bitten and I'm going to turn into a ghoul at some point in this. And Dean's like, well, yeah, and we can't stay here, like, you know, where the kid's mum got ganked. So this is where they kind of diverge, and I thought this was really important. Dean wants to go drop Adam off at Bobby's. And then he's like, we're going to go drop him off, then we'll come back here and we'll kill it. And Sam says no, he wants to use Adam as bait. I mean, Dean calls him bait, but that's the idea. Mm-hmm. John used Dean as bait so many times. We even see it in Dead Man's Blood. He used him as bait on the side of the road for the vampires.
Yep.
I wonder at what age he started using... Well, we know, actually, don't we? Because in Something Wicked, he used Sam as bait. Really.
Yeah.
Intentionally or not. Like, I think this is Dean kind of reconciling that with himself. Like, he would always have been preferred to be dropped off at Bobby's than being used as bait in a hunt. Whereas, like, Sam is John, so he's like, no, we're gonna, the morals are kind of not there.
Skewed. And also, like, it's a means to an end. Everything is a means to an end.
Yeah. It's kind of, I'm like, oh.
It doesn't feel good.
Again, though, at least it's like Dean not wanting to be like John. Mm-hmm. Which also brings me back to the Jack and Dean interactions are like, don't make sense. There was character growth here where he didn't want to be like John anymore.
And then he was.
Yeah. So, Dean does say that he could die. And Sam's like, well, we could all die. Even if we do kill this thing, there are tons of other freaks that want revenge on Dad, on us. What if they find the kid instead and he's not ready? This is the one point I will concede to Sam. It is likely now that, like, other supernatural things know of his existence. They probably would come after Adam, especially the demons, and use him against them. But again, drop him off at Bobby's.
Mm-hmm. Bobby would gladly take on that responsibility.
Very much so. He definitely would. He'd be like, oh, another of John's kids. Like, what?
I'll do this right by this one.
Yeah, why am I not surprised? But then Adam walks in and he says, I'll do it, whatever it takes. I'll do it. I want to do it.
I'm really surprised that, like, just because of the way Sam's been lately with Dean, that he didn't make a Ben reference to the fact that, like, I mean, yes, Ben is technically not his son, but it kind of, like, we've decided that he is.
He is.
Instead of saying getting one past the goalie, he could have been something along the lines of, like, well, look at you and Lisa or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. He totally could have made some kind of snide comment about that in this episode. Because they are not getting on at all at the moment.
No.
Yeah, I really didn't like this scene. It made me, I don't know. Sam, no. I know, we know you're John, but you don't have to be John in this way. No sacrificing your family members for, like, a hunt. Come on.
Yeah, like...
Adam's 18. Like, it's so young. It doesn't seem young when you're 18 at the time, but then you get to, like, 30 and you're like, oh, they're just babies.
You're still a teenager.
You're still a baby.
Like, oh, it's so sad because, like, it's almost like it's jealousy, right? A little bit.
Yeah, and no, it's not even subtext. Dean does call him out on this later.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, I think Sam is jealous. He may not be even consciously aware of the fact that he's jealous, but he is. Yeah. Because, presumably, Adam was getting John's full support of going to college and doing medicine. And Sam had to fight for every step that he took out of that lifestyle.
That's very true.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. I do think Sam is jealous of Adam.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think they both are.
Oh, yeah. Dean definitely is.
Yeah. For different reasons, they're both very jealous of him. We see Sam and Adam. They're outside. They're shooting a trespassing sign, which is really funny. Sam's really good at shooting. He's like getting it in the target, and he's like, "It's easy. You just pull it and time it or whatever." And Adam takes it from him, and he manages to get all 3 shots to hit the sign. And Sam's like, "You're a natural. Good shooting." Again,
that should have been another, like, warning sign. That, like,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure people are not that good the first time you give them a gun.
They would just assume Winchester genetics, you got a good eye.
Yeah,
basically Hawkeye. So we see Sam, like, you know, patting him on the back and being all proud of him, and like in the distance, Dean is just brooding. I'm not happy with this situation.
Yes. So we've had some really funny, like, little sibling moments.
Yeah.
How funny would it have been if, like, Dean had made a comment about Sam shooting when he was a kid, like the first time he tried to shoot a target, like, better than you, mate, or whatever.
right, exactly. I want some insight into their childhood. And then Adam to make a comment on, like, wait, you learned to shoot a gun when you were how old?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like something to show that it's like super messed up, which we know it is.
Mm-hmm. It's confirmation.
Yeah. So they're back in Adam's house, and Sam's taking him through some supernatural books, and in the middle of telling him a story, because he's like, so then we lit it on fire, and explains to him how I make a homemade flamethrower. Like, oh, I'll just show you, it's super easy. Mm-hmm. I do think some of this, we've been really harsh on Sam this episode. I do think some of this is something you said at the beginning, is him being in like big brother mode and him wanting to do some of the things that Dean did for him. You know, like, oh, I'll show you how to make a homemade flamethrower. Like, I'll teach you how to shoot. Like, Dean did all these things for me. Like, I would like to show someone else how to do it. Mm-hmm. So there is a bit of excitement there too about teaching someone your skills, right? It's quite satisfying.
Yeah. It leans into who sort of Sam becomes later on.
Yes.
Like being a leader of a group of hunters. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's all like plotting points to like how Sam could be, and then they don't do anything with that.
Right, I know, it's really frustrating, but he's a good teacher. He's a good older brother, and we've been talking about Jack and Dean. I mean, because Jack is Dean's kid, but like Sam is his uncle, big brother kind of vibe. And he definitely takes on that role. Like, he is super sympathetic to Jack's situation and is very good with talking to him.
Yeah.
And even forgives him quicker than Dean does over Mary. And then Sam gives Adam the talk. Not that talk, the other talk.
He's already had that talk.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
And probably with John.
Oh my God.
Like, I bet this is how it went. It was Dean who had to explain the birds and the bees to Sam. And Dean had to figure it out on his own.
100%. Absolutely.
And then John was the one that had all the parenting talks with, I mean, also with the nurse as a mother. I'm pretty sure like he's known all of this stuff for a long time, because nurses have no filter, which I absolutely love.
That's very true. But yeah, it's not that talk. It's the hunting talk. So
being a hunter isn't a job, Adam. It's life. You're pre-med. You got a girlfriend, friends?
I wonder who Adam's girlfriend was. We never get to meet her. He never mentions her again. You know, Sam says, well, not anymore, you don't. If you're really going to do this, you can't have those kinds of connections ever. They're weaknesses, and you'll just put those people in danger, get them killed. Dean, it focuses on him because he is, like, not joining in this conversation. Mm-hmm. Sam says, that's the price we pay. You cut them out and you don't look back. There's only one thing you can count on. Family.
Which, all of that is absolute horseradish. Because you don't, all of those connections that he's talking about, they become your family.
Yeah. All
All of the people that Sarah, which was, you know, a long time ago, obviously not mentioned anymore.
Yeah.
Lisa and Ben, like, there are people out there who you have connections with.
It's just, I don't know. It's just really...
It's a fantasy.
It is,
It's a fantasy.
And this conversation is really funny because obviously it's come from John. This could have been Dean maybe 2 seasons ago, but it isn't now. Mm-hmm. Right? I can't see Dean giving this same speech now.
No, not at all.
Which is super interesting because, yeah, he basically, which episode was it? I think it was Shadow. He basically said this exact same thing to Sam too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was that episode. Dean pulls him up and he's like, can I talk to you? And he like takes him out of the room.
Dad gave you that exact same speech, remember? It was just before you ditched us for Stanford. You hated Dad for saying that stuff, and now you're quoting him?
Like, yes. At least they do call each other out because Dean's calling out Sam here. When Dean tried to give Sam that same talk before in that previous episode, I think Sam did say, "You're not Dad."
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sam says, "Well, it turns out Dad was right." And then Dean's like, "Since when? Like, since when did you agree with him?" Because Sam was always butting heads with John.
Yeah.
And then Sam says, "Do you know what I see when I look at Adam?" And Dean's like, "A normal kid." And Sam says, "No, meat. Because demons and monsters out there, that's all he is. I hated Dad for a long time, but now I think I understand. So we didn't have a dog in a white picket fence." Okay. So what?
Not touching that one.
Nope. Dad did right by us. He taught us how to protect ourselves. Adam deserves the same.
So does that mean that he hates everybody else? Or like, what does that mean? What does that mean? That because you're aware of that there's monsters out there, what?
It's almost like he's saying it's like his moral duty to tell Adam this stuff because he's going to get involved in it, so he needs to be able to protect himself. You know, maybe Sam's putting himself back in the situation that he was when he was Adam's age, right? If he'd had some more of the skills he has now, say like his psychic abilities and stuff, maybe he would have been able to protect people like Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, but then he's saying like Dad did right by us. So he did pass on all his skills, and it still wasn't enough though, was it? To like not get you dragged back in? I don't know. It's very weird to me. This reconciliation that Sam's having with John in his mind is very weird, but like I think it's because he's on such a revenge trip now that he kind of understands him better, I guess.
Yeah.
It's more seeing people as like tools, like a means to an end, right?
I mean, he literally just called Adam meat.
Right. Yeah.
Like, well, that's all he is to Sam at this point.
It's like you're either a hunter or you're a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So why not bring their little brother in to be a hunter rather than getting him killed? Whereas Dean doesn't see it like that. He doesn't see people as hunters, and not at this point, as hunters or victim. It's like, well, they're people we're supposed to be protecting.
Right. We're supposed to be almost proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah.
And like, we are the ones who should be putting ourselves on the line to save the people that don't need to know about this stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Sam's like, well, everybody needs to know about this stuff and protect themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. And again, it's like carrying on John's wishes, right? I mean, Dean does believe that he wanted him to be normal. Because he says,
I think it's too late for us. This is our life. This is who we are, okay? And it's fine. I accept that.
With Adam, he's still got a chance, man. He can go to school. He could be a doctor. Dean's resignation of like, I accept our lives. Like,
yeah, I know.
There is a certain kind of like, yes, sometimes you can be in a bad situation and like kind of almost having that acceptance and then wanting to like better it can be helpful, right? But he's just like, yeah, I accept. He's resigned to it. Sam answers him with what makes Adam so special, and then Dean says, "What, are you jealous of the kid?" That's the line where Sam's like, well, why does Adam get to go to college? There's a lot to unpack here. The daddy issues are intense.
They are. They are.
But yeah, I mean, well, as we said before, they're both jealous of him. Dean's jealous of Adam because he got John's attention, and Sam's jealous of Adam because he managed to have John without the supernatural baggage that goes with it.
And also he got the support
Yeah.
of John to go to college.
He doesn't have their responsibilities. Where's the burden?
Exactly.
This child is unburdened.
He is not cursed with knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the line, it was so good. Sam says, Dean, all this is not real. The dad Adam knew, he wasn't real. The things out there in the shadows, they are real. The world is coming to an end, that's real. Everything else is just part of the crap people tell themselves to get through the day.
Adam doesn't have to be cursed.
He's a Winchester. He's already cursed.
Sam does not know the weight of those words.
Like,
Not even slightly.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I feel, if anything, Adam got the worst curse.
I mean, he's fully cursed. Like, cursed before they met him. Cursed.
He's also gone through the Winchester cycle. He died, he came back to life. He died again, came back to life.
Possessed for a bit.
And then gets killed by Lucifer. Like,
what else do you want?
It's the Winchester cycle.
He did the whole thing. He speed ran it, actually.
Yeah, he did. He did it in 45 minutes.
Again, no subtext here. It's all text. Like, you can outlined here exactly what Sam and Dean are thinking. They're both jealous of him. They both have issues with John. They both think John wanted different things for them, I feel. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So the thing that Sam was saying, that like the dad that Adam knew wasn't real.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No.
Because the 4 years before... sounds horrible. But the 4 years before Sam...
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain that's what John was like.
I expect so, and I'm sure they saw glimpses of that man. Like, you know, there probably were moments where he like took them out for ice cream or like, you know, did nice stuff for them. But it wasn't consistent for them. Like, and I mean also for Adam, they are giving John a fair amount of credit here. He was in and out of Adam's life and probably uncontactable, I reckon, between the times that he was actually seeing him. I'm sure of it. Can you imagine?
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
the thing is, they got a glimpse of it in season 3 with Bella, her first episode.
Yeah.
When they go to the locker, and he kept Dean's first shotgun.
Yeah.
And Sam's soccer trophy.
This is it. Like, for all his flaws, John had the capacity to be a good dad.
Yeah.
The problem is like the circumstances that they were in meant that he wasn't a good father to them. I guess because he was feeling the same way that Sam is here. Like, I need to protect them from all the things that are out there. Maybe by the time Adam came along, he realised that it was possible to have a normal life and live alongside the supernatural after seeing other people do it. I mean, it's not an excuse. And the fact that he felt he had to protect Adam from his other two sons, they don't drag him into the hunter lifestyle, is extremely
douchey.
Yeah, douchey.
Well, we saw the reaction that Dean had when, you know, Adam was floated around to be his brother, right? Yeah. The hurt that he had hooked up with somebody else. After
Mary as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how dare you betray my mother?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's quite a common feeling for people whose, like, parents have maybe, like, split up or something's happened to other parents. I think that's fairly common to be like, how could you possibly move on from this person that you say that you love so much? But, I mean, it does happen. I saw it as well as, like, another secret. Like, of all the things we found out about John, this is another secret that we're having to deal with and is now our problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Dean says that he's going to save the kid. Whatever is hunting Adam, I'm going to find it. And when Sam says, you've already looked, he's like, well, look again. And just, like, storms out. He drives back to that mausoleum and has another look around. He eventually kind of settles on a loose stone and pries it away, and there's a tunnel.
So at this point, actually it's a little bit later, but I was like, I can't see anything. So eventually I came to my computer because I was like, I'm just looking at like slivers of his face. Yeah. I have no idea what's going on because it's so dark.
They did this thing where he like puts the torch down and then picks it up again, puts it down. And so like you can't see what he's doing at times, which was kind of, it was good because it was building a bit of tension. Like you were expecting something to like grab him, but also you couldn't see anything.
Not a single thing.
I love Jensen for acting this. He looks in that tunnel and like he's just like he bows his head and he's like, oh no. And then you see him like steel himself like, okay, I'm going in. And then he just goes. It's so realistic. I love it so much. I don't know.
He's like, I've already done this once. I have to do it again.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
So he crawls through this tunnel and comes out into another room, which is like part of the mausoleum. and he says, "Home sweet home," and he shines the light around and he sees bits of bodies. He finds Joe's very distinctive glasses, so that bit of a body is Joe. Dean says sloppy Joe.
Gross.
The gallows humour, you got to get through it somehow.
Yeah.
That's his only
Yeah,
excuse.
I guess so.
He hears something in the tunnel behind him and he shoots into it and then the whole tunnel just collapses.
Mm-hmm.
And there doesn't seem to be any other way out and he doesn't have any signal. He just is like, son of a bitch. Back at Adam's house, Sam is sealing it up. He's pouring salt everywhere. He's like nailing boards over the doors and eventually they sort of congregate back at the vent in the floor and says like, this is the only way in and out. If it's coming through, it's coming in here. And then they hear downstairs a door opening and a lady shouting like, Adam, Adam. And apparently it's Kate. Adam runs down and Sam's like, wait, no. That's not your mother. But they kind of hug and everything. And Sam's like really adamant, like, step away from her. It's not her. It's definitely not her. And Kate seems really confused. Back with Dean, he's looking around this, like, this is more of a tomb. It's underground. I don't know why that's a distinction, but it feels like that is to me. Mausoleums are above ground, tombs are below ground, right?
Yes, I am 100% with you on that one.
And he finds like a coffin and he opens it and you can see that it's Kate and she's definitely very dead. She's been like eviscerated.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing in the kitchen's definitely not her.
No.
You know, so Sam's still shouting at Adam, saying like, there was too much blood in the vent, she's dead. Which he's kind of explaining that to him now. It feels like they hadn't explained to Adam how likely it was that Kate was dead.
Yeah, they kind of skirted around it to like save his feelings.
Which I don't feel like you can save someone's feelings, but like he's gonna find out eventually that she's like very dead. Sam shoves Adam away from Kate and Adam takes the shotgun from him.
Super easily, by the way.
I think because Sam's almost passing it to him and then telling him to shoot her.
Yeah, I guess so.
He gives it up. I think Sam gives it up easy too. And while Adam's shouting at her, Sam's looking like really confused and he's like, come on, you have to shoot her. It's not your mother.
Shoot it, it's not human!
Adam like points the gun at Kate and then smiles and says,
I know.
and then hits Sam with the gun and he goes down. So we further confirm that, you know, something's going on because we go back to Dean and he opens another coffin and inside we see dead Adam and there's like blood everywhere. They did a really good job on his face. He's got like black circles under his eyes. He's like, oh.
Yeah.
And Dean's like, oh, he's actually shocked this time. I was shocked.
Yes. I was like, wait, what?
Wait, what? That just changed everything I kind of remembered about Adam for some reason.
It did. And I was like, Adam's not dead. What are you talking about? Adam's not dead.
No, he's got to come. You know, he's got things to do.
Yeah.
Like, there are things, but
There are very important things.
it actually does make more sense that he's dead, though, because now he's easily accessible to angels. True. But yeah, what the tragedy of Adam. I mean, poor kid. He would never have known why he got murdered by a ghoul.
That's
right?
very
and
true.
he died pretty horribly. I mean, we'll go into that in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then so ends up in heaven, presumably, not knowing what's going on, probably not knowing that he's even dead.
Right.
And then gets dragged back.
Probably by the same angel that took him up in the first place.
Possessed by Michael. Almost immediately thrown into hell. Almost immediately.
With a different brother.
Right? Well, a stranger. Because he doesn't know who these people are.
That's very true. Yeah.
Like, he literally has no idea who these people are. So, I mean, Sam and Adam would have had a very interesting conversation in the cage if they ever got a chance to talk, because it's like, Sam would have been like, Adam, and he would have been like, who the frick are you?
Yeah.
All right, his whole life was just one giant confusion.
It was.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing, John Winchester.
Yeah, basically. Wow, that's the real curse, having John Winchester as a father.
Yep. That's the Winchester curse.
That is, I mean, yes. Oh, gosh.
And you're never going to convince me otherwise. Dean is looking around trying to find like a way to escape. And then he looks up and there's a stained glass window of an angel. Of course there is.
Oh my god, I know. It's like cherubic as well.
Yeah.
Wow. There's some symbolism there that's very on the nose.
Yeah. I wonder if they're like, well, we can't get Cass in this episode or we can't get Misha in for this episode.
Yeah.
Let's just put an angel in.
I legitimately thought like he was going to look at that angel and be like, oh yeah, that's right. I can just pray to Cass.
That's what I thought too.
No.
Not at this point.
No.
He's too self-reliant at this point.
Yeah.
So we're back at the Milligan house and Sam is tied to a table and he starts to stir and he's got like duct tape all around him. Mm-hmm. Sam realizes what they are.
No wonder none of the tests worked. You're not shapeshifters. You're ghouls.
And Kate says, oh, I find that term racist.
But they don't give an alternative to ghoul.
Right. So
ghouls always
please tell me.
It always makes me think of like Always Sunny. Just like Charlie and Frank being like, we want to go in the sewers and be ghouls or whatever.
It gets rather creepy rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Kate's all about like fresh meat. Can you imagine being Sam in the situation? You are looking at a copy of the woman that your dad slept with and like met up with regularly.
Yeah.
And she's about to like cut you up.
It's a weird situation.
Yeah.
Also,
really.
He doesn't try and really like use his psychic powers at any point in this situation.
I was thinking because it focuses a lot on his hands and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, can he not do anything? Is it only against demons?
I thought he had some kind of like slight telekinesis.
Yeah. They changed the rules on his powers, I'm thinking.
I think so. I mean, I thought they were focused on his hand because he was like trying to like wiggle free.
Yeah, there is that too.
But it was, I don't know. He just seemed to like, I don't know, give up.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He was being very defiant, but he was also like, well, I'm tied to this table. Just got to wait for Dean. Yeah.
Damsel in distress. So Sam is just sort of chastising himself a little bit because he says, oh, I should have known, but it was the fresh kills that like threw me. Mm-hmm. Ghouls don't usually like why are you talking to them like they're us, but okay. Like the audience.
Yeah.
Ghouls don't usually go after the living.
See, you're just filthy scavengers, feeding off the dead, taking the form of the last corpse you choked down.
Adam, in quotation, says, and their thoughts and their memories, like Adam, for instance.
Yeah, well, we are what we eat.
Quite good. I mean, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the ghoul thing. They should have had more ghouls.
Right, instead of shapeshifters.
It's interesting. Like,
yeah.
What's the genealogy of a ghoul? Are they related to shapeshifters? Did they evolve down the same, like, tree pathway thing? Mm-hmm. Where's the science?
Where's Eve?
Yeah.
And her, like, monsters, right?
Right.
Sam calls them monsters. Mm-hmm. And Adam's like, you use that word a lot, Sam. While this is happening, Kate has cut Sam's arm and is, like, drinking the blood. And she says, it tastes different.
It's really interesting because he calls them monsters and then we see her drinking his blood. And it's like, Sam, literally like 2 episodes, you were drinking Ruby's blood. You're not calling yourself a monster though, are you?
Nope, because he's doing it for the greater good.
The greater good.
Adam explains why they're coming for revenge because, their father was as in the ghoul's father, was a monster. Why? Because he ate. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't hurt any living people anyway. Kate continues, says, no, he was no monster. The thing that killed him was a monster named John Winchester, which I feel like that's not the first time somebody's called John Winchester a monster in this context, but I could just be thinking of this as well.
That's true. I mean, they definitely have come across this, but not in these kind of blatant terms of monsters seeing hunters as the bad guys. Mm-hmm. You know, they're just trying to live their lives.
Yeah.
And then these people come along and murder them.
Mm-hmm.
And really, yeah, they're right. Like, they're just eating dead people. Like, what harm are they doing other than it's upsetting to the community?
It's upsetting to the living.
Yeah, exactly. But they need to eat. And it's like getting mad at like a lion for killing a zebra.
Yeah, it's true. Had Adam, in quotation marks, lived, he has all of the knowledge from Adam being a pre-med. So like he could go on to become a doctor or like a morgue technician.
Yeah.
You know, he just takes the John Does or the Jane Does.
Exactly.
So we're back at the tomb. Dean's found like a long piece of metal off of one of the coffins and like sort of pushes it to underneath the stained glass and like breaks it.
He says holy crap, which I thought was really funny. Because he's just about to smash an angel anyway.
Yeah. And then he like gymnastics himself out of there. Like, I don't know why you would go about it that way rather than just, I mean, I guess it's easier to lift your leg. I don't know.
It was extremely impressive.
It really was.
I'm like, if that was me, I'd be screwed. I don't have the upper body strength to like get up there.
It's like, it's whole body strength because he holds his arms up, lifts his legs up, hooks them over, and then like,
They should have, one time, they should have got Dean to do some kind of trapeze. I feel like he would have been good at it.
Yes, that would have been fun. So we're then back at the Milligan house and Adam's just like stuck his finger in the wound with the side of, in Sam's side. I'm just like, how many infections have they had?
I mean, none, because they have like a, what's it?
Plot armor.
Plot armor, yeah.
Because then Adam like just pulls out his finger, it's covered in blood, like he's really gotten in there, and he like just licks the finger. It's just like, that's your brother. That's gross.
That's your fake brother. How dare you?
And Kate says, you know, thanks to your daddy, my brother and I grew up on our own. But at least we had each other. Mm-hmm. And Adam's like, just like you and your brother. But I mean, that's confirming that ghouls have sex, as in like male and female.
I think they're born and not made. That's what I mean. Like it's so mean to call them monsters because they're not even made into monsters. They're just born. Mm-hmm. They're born that way. They eat corpses. Like, leave them alone.
It's like in Metamorphosis. What was the creature name?
Oh, the Rougarou. Yeah, exactly.
Rougarou, yeah.
There's other ones as well. The Kitsune, which would have been a better monster, by the way. If any monster was going to take them out at the end of 1520, the Kitsune would have been a better one. Because they literally murdered her mother and then said, when you're older, you can come after us if you want. That would have actually been a good throwback, just saying. Also, was a literal ghoul a better dad than John Winchester?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't know what the ghoul's life was like. Like, did it just have like a everyday life and then sort of ate corpses at night kind of thing, or?
I don't think so because of what Adam says in this.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Like you said, Sam, the only thing you can count on is family.
Kate continues and says, and for 20 years we lived like rats, graveyard after graveyard, all that stinking flesh.
Yeah.
And then one day they decided that, you know, why not just move up to people?
Mm-hmm.
At this time, they're like, you know, cutting into Sam all over the place.
Yeah.
We knew just where to start.
The people that killed our dad, revenge. And it's never over, is it, Sam? And they basically go through like they went after Joe first, and then they went after Kate, and then they went after Adam.
Yeah.
And so then when they tried to find John using the phone number, they're surprised that he has more children out there. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, they didn't know that, but they were pissed that John was already dead. Mm. So now it's Sam and Dean's turn, and Dean won't interrupt us this time. We're gonna feed on you nice and slow, like we did Adam, which is
poor Adam.
Poor Adam. Do you think it's true that... Yeah, no, I was going to say, do you think it's true? But yes.
Yeah, he got 8. He got 8 zombie style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They then, like, set up 2 bowls under Sam's arms.
Mm-hmm.
And they... Well, this made me really queasy. I'm usually not, like, that bad with people being cut on TV.
Yeah.
But something about, like, I guess where it is, because, like, on his arm, like, over his veins kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. I got a little lightheaded for a second to see that, like... the skin open up in that way. Oh,
that's really funny because I have an actual problem with blood where I like do almost pass out if I see it. Stuff on TV has never bothered me. Ever.
I mean, usually it doesn't, but there was something about this one that I was like, I think it was just like I don't know. And then Adam says, you know, if you move around more, you're just going to bleed out faster. Mm-hmm. Dean appears and says, hey.
Hey. He should have done some finger guns like, hi guys.
He had a real gun in his hands.
That's true. If you don't need to do finger guns if you're carrying a shotgun, I guess.
Exactly. Because you kind of need both hands.
You need yeah, okay.
I guess on the barrel he could... Anyway. Sam is coherent enough to tell Dean that they're ghouls. Because he first of all shoots Adam and he flies away. And then the second shot is at Kate, and all you see is Kate's body like fall without a head.
Yeah, that shotgun took her head clean off. I didn't know I could do that.
Pretty sure. I don't know.
I didn't know I could do that.
And after that, like Dean has his action line moment of saying, which means headshot,
and then proceeds to not really headshot Adam in any way.
Well, the thing is, you've just confirmed that you need to do a headshot on these creatures. He goes to Sam first. Like, would you not turn around and be like, okay, well, I only shot the guy in the chest. Let me go reload my gun because I have 2 shots.
Fine.
And take out Adam. Yeah. Like, well, this is Chuck wanting another older brother, younger brother fight, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He gets blindsided by Adam, and they start a fight, and then, like, you see Dean take out his frustrations on his younger brother.
I mean...
Because he takes a bottle and just beats his head in.
It was very reminiscent of Soldier Boy, and I realised they did actually try to typecast him there, didn't they? Like, because I knew that when I was watching The Boys, and I saw Soldier Boy, like, bashing in that guy's head with the shield. I mean, spoilers, but fine. We probably should say spoilers for The Boys if we're talking about it. Never mind. I was like, I've definitely seen Jensen do this before, and I was like, yeah, it's supernatural. Yeah. It was really brutal, actually. I was surprised how brutal it was. I mean, they didn't, because of when Supernatural's on, there wasn't really any blood splatter or anything.
No, there was a bit behind Kate's body.
Yeah. But
it was very conveniently, like, not shown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
brutal.
Bad.
Yeah.
And the only reason why Dean really stops is because Sam calls him over.
Yeah.
Sam's still bleeding out at this point, and Sam cuts him out of the rope and the duct tape and gets like some towels and wraps it around his wrists and like gets him to sit up. It's like, surely the first thing you'd have him do is like lift his hands.
You need to lie down. You need to put the hands in the air. This is bad first aid, Dean.
And Sam says thank you, which is really sweet. And then said that's what family's for.
Yeah. Do you think that Dean was actually like frustrated with Adam, or do you think this was like, you're the monster that killed our younger brother, possibly, of anger?
I think it's everything.
Just everything. This whole situation was absolute bullcrap for Dean. He was like, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
Gotta be a monster.
I had to crawl through an air duct. I had to crawl through a tunnel. I had to be amongst corpses and skeletons.
Yeah. I had to deal with the fact my dad had sex with somebody who I guess kind of looks like my also dead mum, but we can glaze past that. It's there's a lot there.
Yeah. I think it was too much. And he took Sam's revenge away from him again.
He did. There's a lot of revenge blocking. Dean beating Adam was a facsimile of him. Is kind of weird. Again, though, Adam knows nothing about any of this happening, so it's fine.
That's very true.
Yeah, he doesn't know. And it was just a ghoul. I guess we're the racists now.
Well, we don't know what the proper term is. I will gladly call you what you want to be called, but I need to know what it is.
Flesh eaters.
Well, are they though? Because they're corpse eaters.
Yeah, corpse eaters quite good. Quite like that. I don't know. They should have said. They should have given us an alternative anyway.
Devourers?
Ooh, I like devour. I can't say that word though. For the last scene in this episode, we see Sam and Dean giving Adam a hunter's funeral.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, "Are you sure that we should do this?" And Dean said, "Well, the ghouls didn't fake those pictures. They didn't fake Dad's journal. He was our brother. He died like a hunter and he deserves to go out like one." They've accepted Adam into the Winchester canon.
Yeah.
I mean, he's now in the Gospel of Winchester, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I guess so.
Sam says something really interesting here. He's like,
Maybe we can bring him back. Get a hold of Cass, call in a favor.
and it's like, you can't bring another brother into this cycle, Sam. Like, I was already like, you're suggesting what now? Imagine if it had been the three of them constantly bringing each other back, and it would have been more chaotic than it is.
It would have been disastrous.
Yeah.
Like, because you're bringing somebody who knows nothing
Yeah.
about hunting.
I'm like, sorry, Adam, but like, there has to be a lesser Winchester in this trio, and it was you. You don't get the resurrection yet.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Dean says no, Adam's in a better place, which we know is a lie. Dean knows it's a lie. Tessa told him it's a lie, so stop saying it, Dean. And then they set the pyre on fire. These last lines, these are like, oh yeah, so you are aware of how you're writing these characters sometimes. Mm-hmm. Dean says, you know, I finally get why you and Dad butted heads so much.
You two are practically the same person.
And Sam looks at him like, no.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, but yeah. And then Dean, in a moment of like absolute like self-reflection, like, I mean, I can't believe he clocked this about himself.
I know.
It's like, maybe he is doing some kind of therapy, because this is very like insightful for Dean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I worship the guy, you know, I dressed like him.
I mean, he says dressed. Dress, it should, present tense should still be there.
Especially right now.
He's wearing the jacket.
He's wearing the jacket.
He literally like addressed like him, dressed as John Winchester. Like, you are cosplaying your father. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I acted like him, I listened to the same music. You were more like him than I will ever be.
And Sam just says, I'll take that as a compliment.
You shouldn't.
Dean says, you take that any way you want. Which, ooh, we're trying to start arguments up in here. Like,
Yep.
Yep. I can't believe that Dean, I can't believe Dean called himself out like this. Like, oh yeah, I always just wanted to be Dad. Like, I mean, we know it's true. Sam knows it's true. Everyone who ever meets Dean is like, oh, you're just like your father. Like, but I don't think he would be self-aware enough to be like, yeah, I did want to be John Winchester. I don't think he does anymore.
No.
He uses the past tense a lot here, apart from the listening to the music.
Yeah.
So that's also, I guess, a moment of growth for Dean. It's like, I acted like him. I don't act like him now.
Yeah.
And then him saying, like, you take it any way you want, it's just that is so sassy.
Because he didn't mean it as a compliment.
He didn't.
Nope.
No. I mean, what did Dean say about John? He was a selfish, self-obsessed bastard.
I think so.
And he just called Sam.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Sam does want to be like John now, you know, because he was praising him early in the episode. Like, you know, he did the best he could. He raised us the way that we should have been raised.
He definitely still has the hero worship.
Yeah.
But I think he worships the way that he approached hunting, not anything else.
Yeah, I think so too. I think with the problem is like, I don't think Sam's seen yet like where revenge takes you, whereas Dean knows. Mm-hmm. You know, he hasn't had that final like realization of, I don't know, it's like never gonna end thing. But he knows it as well though. He did say like it's never over, so I don't know.
I feel like Sam still feels responsible for the fact that Dean died.
Yeah.
Because Dean made the deal so that Sam could live, and Sam couldn't do anything. He had to get to Lilith to stop the deal from going through, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because actually, who's he taking revenge for? He's taking revenge for Dean. Mm-hmm. I always forget that when he's like, I want to take revenge. But yeah, going after Lilith is revenge for Dean go to hell. So it's interesting that Dean's like not interested in that revenge at all. He's like, yeah, well, it happened, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've come to grips with it. Like,
let bygones be bygones. Let's go open a bar. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like this episode is such an interesting exploration into them thinking about John. He doesn't get mentioned again for a really long time now. I think it's about like Dean finally coming to terms with the fact that he wasn't a great dad, but he had the capacity to be, which I think is actually worse sometimes, right? To realise that this person could have been better and they kind of just didn't. They couldn't for you, right? They couldn't be the better person for you.
Exactly. Like, how much would he have loved to, on his 12th birthday or 14th birthday, gone to do anything but hunt?
Or be left alone somewhere, or did they even know it was his birthday? You know what I mean? Like, they spent Christmases alone, so I'm sure they spent birthdays alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for Sam, I mean, it's about realizing that, it's that realization. It's like, I have become my father.
Yeah.
But he's kind of fine with it.
He's fine with it, but I feel like it's that same kind of speech he had with Dean. He's his father, but he feels like he's better than him.
Yeah, you're right. There's such a superiority complex about Sam in this season. Mm-hmm. It's all that being hopped up on demon blood. It gives you a inflated sense of self. I love this. I actually really enjoyed this episode. I had forgotten some of the details of it, and it was a surprise. There were some really good lines in there. I think it's great. Yeah.
It was a really good episode. It might have to be one of those ones where, like, I have to remember that it's a good one.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And, like, actually come back to... You remember a few episodes ago we were talking about, like, what episodes do you need to watch to make this look like a movie?
Yeah.
This one might be in it.
I think
because it is actually kind of important. This
is a big plot point. I mean, you can't explain Adam turning up in season 5 without this episode, so...
That's very
true. And that's pretty important. Yeah. I think you'd have to include it in that, definitely. Mm-hmm. And it just, I don't know, it just explains so much about them, where they're at right now in this season. It's all crystallized here. I loved it. Annabelle.
I did too.
And next episode is a Cass episode, so I'm living my dreams.
Absolutely a Cass episode. There's like nothing but... Was it Cass? No, it's more Jimmy. No,
it's more Jimmy, isn't it? I mean, this is Misha. Making some spaghetti.
Yep, I will always remember that.
I know, right? Iconic.
It is. It truly is. So yeah, the next week's episode is The Rapture.
Exciting stuff.
Yes.
Very close to the end now.
Oh God, we have 3 episodes.
Yep.
Wild.
I know. I'm so proud of us.
then we get to do season 5 and like cry all over again.
Oh, season 5. Yeah. I'm very excited for next week. And at the end of the episode, I'd like to thank the Pixel Agora for his wonderful art on our podcast. If you would like our logo, you can go to our Redbubble and buy it on whatever your little heart desires. Some of the proceeds go back to Jay as a thank you for designing something so wonderful. And as for us, we are all over social media, so if you'd like to talk to us, come and say hi, discuss the episode with us, tell us where our takes are wrong or where they're really right, and jump on the John Winchester hate train with us. Yes. Choo choo. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr at Escaping Purgatory Podcast, or on Twitter as just Escaping Podcast, and come say hi.
So this week, as we journeyed through, we met a long lost relative and we discussed how different our lives could have been. It then turned out to be all false. Because he was a liar. So he ran away really quick. And hopefully next week we'll be able to find our way out.
Bye.
Bye.